So now that we've talked about some of the challenges that have come with working with our sources, there actually is legislation that's been floating out there for some time that would protect journalists, help them protect their sources, but it hasn't gotten real far at the federal level. So let's take a look at what SHIELD laws are all about. So what is a SHIELD law? Basically, it's going to provide legal protection for a reporter, protecting them against governments requiring them to reveal their sources. This will allow both the journalist and the person who's providing information to feel safe, because in approaching a journalist, they will have a guarantee that the journalist will not be required to expose who they are while they're exposing the wrongdoing. Right now, we do have state SHIELD laws in almost every state and the District of Columbia. Wyoming is the lone holdout here, but we don't have any statutory protection at the federal level. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, all we have to do is remember Branzburg v. Hayes, where during the investigation of a federal grand jury, we had the requirement to reveal information of confidential sources and reveal their names. So, some would say, how likely is this to be in play today? And truthfully, it's very likely. So just recently we had this Fox News reporter who had received information about a notebook that the suspected Aurora, Colorado shooter had, and that he had sent his psychiatrist. She was under great pressure to reveal the information as to where she had gotten that journal. Judith Miller from the New York Times was jailed for 3 months because she refused to identify who provided her with the name of a confidential CIA operative, and that she had been revealed. She had revealed the name of Valerie Plame. Really much more close to home here in Ohio, Lisa Abraham, who most recently the food editor at the Columbus Dispatch, she was charged with contempt of court and jailed for 22 days because she wouldn't testify about an interview she conducted with a county official who was facing indictment. And then we have this very prominent case of James Risen. He actually faced jail time over a book that he'd written. The Justice Department wanted him to name a confidential source who had provided information about nuclear secrets being revealed in Iran. And what James Risen has said, he's actually, he has been absolved of this responsibility, but he says that our present administration, the Obama administration, has actually been the greatest enemy of press freedom in a generation. And he's actively and aggressively pursuing journalists who report on sensitive stories. So the legislation today is actually, President Obama resurrected the idea of a federal SHIELD law in 2013. It was called the Free Flow of Information Act. We also had a Senate bill, and most recently, in 2015, the House of Representatives has passed another broad legislative measure in the past. It's gotten wrapped up in other legislation, as legislation is wont to do, and has not made it out of Congress, but every time it moves forward, there's the opportunity that's going to end up on the president's desk, and hopefully that there's going to be signage of that legislation into law. But while it's not, we are continuing to have kind of challenges to the press that are pretty significant from the government side. Most recently, we had the AP scandal, where the Department of Justice ended up subpoenaing private phone records of several Associated Press reporters and editors in the wake of an article that had been written about a terrorist plot leak. Now, right after this happened, the White House asked Democratic lawmakers to revive the federal SHIELD law. And so the goal is that the more that the circumstances align themselves, that Congress will be pressed into action in order to make this a reality and to ensure the role of the press as the fourth estate. Now, that's not to say that there's only upsides to this. There are some downsides, and the opponents of the SHIELD law cite these, that basically we're going to be compromising national security. So if we have people who are releasing classified information, I give you the example of WikiLeaks. Bradley Manning, who now has become Chelsea Manning, released classified information that was published on WikiLeaks. Edward Snowden, of course, in The Guardian, who revealed the PRISM, the phone records that were being collected by the government. There are certainly exceptions in prior SHIELD laws that the government could obtain information when a threat to national security is involved. We're always going to have that provision, but there are people who feel that we would be compromised as a nation if we allow the press to have the level of protection that we're looking for. By the same token, there's going to be special treatment of journalists, and how do we define a journalist now? That's a continuing struggle as we have, a variety of people doing journalism that maybe are not journalists. So how do we identify exactly who should be protected in this case?